Hey, what's going on, guys? So I'm here in my car. Just in case any of you are wondering, I know I get questions in the after these videos are up for a while, like what kind of engine is that? So it's a 95 Celica with a 3S GTE Generation 3 3S GTE engine from the JDM MR2. That's not what I'm talking about though, because what I'm actually talking about is this little coolant leak that I found right there where it has the light shining. You see this ugly ring that's left. That's perfect little circle. Looks like it belongs there, except that it doesn't, because there's a hole in my radiator now. But anyway, what I've got to do is I've got to pull this radiator out, and I've got some stuff called Alumaloy, and Alumaloy is really nice. It's an aluminum zinc alloy, so you would use it to, you would heat up whatever it is that you're adhering it to, and then you start to heat up the rod, and then the little aluminum zinc alloy ends up following where the heat is. It's similar to soldering. If you've soldered before, it's a lot like soldering. So heat it up, you push the rod on, and then you let it cool, and it takes a little while for it to cool. The thing that I'm concerned with doing it on this is you can see that there's all these thin cooling fans, which are cooling fins that go through the radiator, and I'm going to end up damaging some. But what are my options, right? I mean, if I have it welded, there's going to be the same thing that happens to it, and all these little fins are going to get damaged anyway. So it's either pay somebody just about as much money as this thing is worth to weld it, which here in Hawaii it's not really that cheap, right? Or I guess I could probably get away with spending $100 on getting it welded, right? Or I could use Alumaloy on it and do it for what I paid for the rod. The rods were like $20. They really didn't cost that much at all. So I'm gonna do that because that sounds like a lot better option. Now the cool thing was I may have just saved my car by installing this. I've got this coolant pressure sensor here, which is an oil pressure sensor that I've kind of reapportioned pretty much, like I've just used it for something else. So I've got a coolant pressure gauge that's kind of a dual. I kind of made a combination gauge. I'll have a video that I put up later talking about that, but I basically have a flip switch to switch between the two different signals, the oil pressure signal and the coolant pressure sensor signal. So I can switch between the two sensors, and I can look at the two different pressures as I flip the switch. So sometimes I keep it on the oil. I'll flip over and look at the oil pressure, and I'll leave it on that because that's more important than coolant pressure. But I'll flip over and look at the coolant pressure. Maybe if the engine's getting hot, which this time I just happened to flip it over and I saw that, hey, I've got a coolant pressure leak, because it was about 7 or 8 psi lower than normal at the operating temperature that it was at. So it's really inconvenient, but it's really convenient that I installed this. So it's not that expensive, and if you already have an oil pressure gauge, then do the three-way switch thing. So I'm definitely going to be putting that up in a video. I'm planning on soon doing an overall video on this car, talk about everything, and now that's going to be after I fix this radiator. But the coolant pressure gauge is a very awesome thing. So the next part of this little video, I'm gonna just have my I'll probably show just the after. I don't know if I'm going to show myself actually doing the Alumaloy on this, but I've got to flush it all out. I'm not going to video all of that, but I've got to flush it all out, and I have to get my pull it out. Obviously, I don't really want to try doing it on the engine. I want to lay it flat and then heat it up, push the aluminum. This is really thin aluminum, so I should be able to do it really quick. So I got to scuff it up somehow. But that's going to be the next little part of the video, is I'm going to go into that. So it's going to be yeah, and I've got to figure out another option versus that, but instead of that little fan that caused this whole problem. He's probably mad at me for putting him too close to the exhaust pipe, the down pipe. It's like, what are you doing? Why do you have me by this hot molten lava exhaust pipe? If it could think, if it could talk, that's what it would be saying, right? But yeah, this isn't gonna be fun. But I was forced to use that little fan just because of clearance issues that I have. That because of that downpipe and because of the thickness of this radiator, I think it's about half an inch thicker than the old radiator. So just with the radiator being thicker, and with just the size of that the stock cooling fan shroud was, the cooling fan and the shroud is the same assembly, so it really gets in the way of this downpipe, or I guess the downpipe gets in the way of it, however you want to say it. So I went with a little universal fan, and I had rubber pads between the fan and the fins, and you can see where I had, like here, you can see where it's kind of pushed in the fins a little bit. But I guess vibration made those fall out, because when I pulled out the fan, they weren't there. So yeah, it's really, yeah, it's been fun. I've said it a bunch of times, I'll keep saying it because it's not gonna get fun, but it's an experience though, right? I might mount the fan on the front of the engine, the front of the definitely on the front of the engine. I want to mount it on the, probably going to mount it on the front of my condenser here instead, and just trim down my intercooler mount that I have. So I've got my radiator in my car, as you can see. So there's nothing there, there's no radiator. So all my Alumaloy stuff here. I got my sandpaper. This is a little Alumaloy rod I was talking about. You don't treat it like a welding rod, you treat it more like solder. Propane tank, and you can use MAP gas also. MAP gas will heat it up quicker, but since I'm working with aluminum, I don't want something that's that gets as hot as MAP gas. And I got some pliers to hold the Alumaloy stick. Now I've already sanded this down, and you can see the crack is right there. I don't know how well this is going to focus on the issue at hand, but that's where my little crack is, and that's the only spot that I can see is really damaged. All these cooling fins are damaged. It's because my little boot things. You could see this side is actually not that bad, because I guess the boots, the little spacers that I had in between the fan and the radiator, I guess they held up longer. So I'm not going to video myself actually putting the Alumaloy on this, because you heat it up, you push it on, that's basically it. There's other guys that, you know, they do video and they've done like AC condensers, and they can withstand PSI up to like 150 plus. So they're good. So this is a good way to patch it. It's a good way to seal it up. But, yeah, so you can go watch another one of those videos to see somebody actually doing it and showing you exactly what to do, and teaching it better than I am. This is just more of me documenting the issue. So okay, so that's the spot. It's got the Alumaloy on it now. I did have a really tiny amount on it, and then I decided to keep going just a hair, just to build it up just a little bit, and yeah, so that happened. So now it's more than I had intended, but it's not bad. You can tell it's been patched. That's it. It's nice. It's cooled off now. It's been like 10 minutes, and I'm just gonna throw it back in. Alright, I just put regular water in it for right now. So far it's dry. I've got my little napkin over here that I can really check. And it's dry so far. Just working on building up pressure. So heater on and the air bubbles out, let the water circulate through the whole system. So this is my coolant temperature, this is my coolant pressure. It's not 9 psi, it's the gauge is off a little bit, but you see it's trying to go up to 10 psi, so it's probably like 9.5 something. But yeah, air fuel ratio, that, and exhaust temperature, my thermocouple's on the way. Until then I have no exhaust temperature. I'll be remaking this little plastic thing. It was just kind of like a temporary mock-up, whatever, just to get like a good measure. So I riveted in some aluminum and drilled some holes in so that it attached. So I'm up to about 2 psi now. I'm just subtracting 8 from the final number. So it's building a little pressure. So yeah, but right now I'm working on mounting my fan in the front, so I'm trying to figure that out. I'm going to try to mount it to this metal bracket and that metal bracket on the side, so it kind of hovers a little bit away from my condenser, so that way I don't get any rubbing, anything like that. So it's going to take a little bit to figure out. And I had to saw my little intercooler bracket. It was as long as that one. But I think what was happening, Still no water. I think what was happening is whenever I would accelerate, this pipe, the charge pipe, would push against the fan housing, and that would push against the radiator, which eventually led to my my little spacers being rubbed out just from pressure and vibration and all that stuff. So then they fell out, I guess. Well, I know they fell out, but I don't know how. Still dry. It's probably up to about like 11 or 12 right now, which would be like 3, 4, yeah, 11. At 11, hitting 12. The switches switch between. So that's my oil temperature, and then that's off, just like this is off, and then oil pressure. So I usually keep it on oil pressure. So we wait. Usually this tops out at 23, which is about 15 psi. I've got it set to blink at 15, which is like, oh, guess not. I got it set, I have it set to blink at when it drops below 12, I guess. So when it drops below 4 psi, which is low, but when it drops below that, I know that I have very little water or coolant or whatever is in it. So still building pressure. This is nice. My fans are set to, this is my little fan switch. So that means they're always on. Sorry, that means they're always on. And then that means it's on the factory system. And then that means it's just on my aftermarket. My little engine management controls it entirely. Nothing else controls it. Alright, it's up to 20 psi right now. Almost 21. It's about to go over into 21. I don't know why it just dropped into 19, but it just bumped up to 21. So it's jumping around a bit. Still doesn't seem like any leak has developed. This is all getting hot. Napkin's still dry. It's about as easily, the most it hits is about 23. So it's doing well. It is doing well. So that's it. I'm going to work on mounting that radiator to the fan of the front, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. Charge pipe pushing on it, and wearing a hole in my radiator because I don't want to have to patch this thing again. So anyway, so that's it. Alumaloy is pretty awesome stuff. Check out my other videos. I actually have a video with me working with it. I was putting on the, it's down there, my air temperature sensor. Talked about that, and then I put that on with Alumaloy too. Those hit about 15 pounds pressure every now and then. No leaks, it's good. And it's like that's doing pretty good too. So anyway, thanks for watching though. Like, subscribe, comment, and check out other videos. I've got stuff on tuning and how sensors work and all that stuff, and all those are in the description. But anyway, thanks for watching this far, and God bless.